Hello, welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, comment, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We would love to hear your ratings of the movies and shows we review.
Email us your audio file to recappingpodcast@gmail.com and we will play it during the show.
Or DM us on Instagram and we will post and read it on air.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
Delora, it is officially the week of Christmas, darling. How are you feeling?
Christmas time is here. Da, 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 da. Very excited. How about you?
Oh, it's my birthday week and it's the week of Christmas. I'm gooch. I'm out here living it up, baby. I'm trying to take advantage of this time and just really enjoy myself. I feel like life is going by so fast. Time is going by so fast. I just want to cherish it. So that's where I'm at with things. I'm grateful.
I get that.
Yeah. And I'm ready to, tear it up a little bit on this mic with you for our last recap of 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
As we mentioned last week, we are recapping a Christmas film, new release called Spirited on Apple TV Plus. It released on November 11th, runtime a little bit over 2 hours. Let me give you guys a quick summary. This is a musical version of Charles Dickens' story of a miserly misanthrope who's taken on a magical journey. Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds star as well as serve as producers on this project. So we have Will Ferrell as Ghost of Christmas Present, Ryan Reynolds as Clint, Octavia Spencer, best Ryan.
Ryan.
Octavia Spencer as Kimberly, Marlo Barkley as Wren, Sunita Mani as Ghost of Christmas Past, Patrick Page as Jacob, Joe Tippett as Owen, and Tracy Morgan as the voice of Christmas yet to come. Reviews: Rotten Tomatoes, 69% critic score, 79% audience score, and 73% of Google users gave this film a thumbs up. Delora, what is your grade for this holiday release, Spirited?
Well, I love a good musical. Anyone who's listened to this podcast long enough would understand that thoroughly. So what's important when it comes to musicals?
Talent.
Exactly. The dancing, the singing, the musical selections. And did it invoke joy? So what I will say about Spirited is I know what they were doing. I feel like I understand their intentions because Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds are not singers and dancers. But I was pleasantly surprised by Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
And in a way that I still laugh because you could tell he's joking about bursting into random song, but he's doing a really good job at it.
He got a swing to them hips. He got a little swing to them hips. I'm not going to lie to y'all.
What I also really enjoyed about this is when it comes to the dancing, the choreographer, Black woman. I was just so excited to see her in her element. I actually follow her on social media. I thought I had it up sooner, but she's part of the Sync Tap ladies on Instagram. Very inspirational. So I love that a Black woman was teaching Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds how to tap dance. I'll have her name later on in the recap. I apologize for not having it readily available now. But with that being said, I gave this a C+.
That was my original grade as well. C+ was fair on my first watch and really was only going to get that because of the love I have in my heart for this time of the year. But it was my second watch, guys, that changed my heart and my grade to a B minus. I feel like I caught more of the tone and humor of it on my second watch than I probably did on my first watch, even though it took me a long time to get through because I had a lot of interruptions during my second watch.
I fell asleep on it the first time I watched it.
Yeah, I didn't fall asleep. I was just super underwhelmed. But the second time, I was like, okay, I'm with y'all. I'm vibing with y'all. I chuckled at some points. The music numbers were hitting a little different, a little bit harder. I was feeling it more. So for me, it's a B minus. But to your point, some about these musicals that if that's not your gift, it really bothers me to see. This did not need to be a musical, and I feel like it would have been better. But the background dancers and background singers were spectacular.
Fire!
Spectacular.
Fire. They were the foundation for sure. And I found her name. Her name is Chloe Arnold, and her Instagram is Chloe Arnold Taps. And the fact that she literally choreographed those tap numbers was Black girl magic. Loved it, loved it, loved it.
We always come through, don't we? All right, Delora. Let's move into the recap itself. We begin the film narrated by the ghost of Christmas Present, who, along with the ghosts of Christmas Past and Yet to Come, are at the end of their night with a literal Karen that they are trying to make a better person. In this case, seems like it works. We see that there is an entire organization of ghosts that do these hauntings or quote unquote simulations. This was very reminiscent of Santa's workshop vibes for me, with the tone and with the aesthetic of this afterlife version of their workplace. What did you think of this version of an afterlife? Would you want to work after you die?
Ideally, no. But it was fascinating that based off how much time you put in, you get a chance to go back to Earth. I thought that was interesting. Also, one of the parts that made me laugh was they're like, what's going on? They're like, yeah, the afterlife is a musical. It just was like the most random thing ever. But I love these type of shows, like the behind the scenes. It reminds me, to your point, of the Santa Claus, right? It also reminds me of Monsters, Inc. And even Inside Out, where you get a chance to see essentially where the sausage gets made.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Or The Good Place, right? Where you're just seeing a version of what this reality could look like once you're gone, which is always fascinating because obviously none of us know. So it's fun to speculate, but I did have to give this some thought. I was like, would I want to die and then have this? I mean, I see it as more of almost like a limbo that you're in if you go this route, right? Where you may be dead, but you're not comfortable yet because you're trying to get back to.
You have to put in years of service.
Yeah, possibly. If that's what you choose, it seems like anyway.
But it's like you're dead, but your business is for the living. So is that a good place to be in? Or can you just move on?
And if you think about it too, what we're essentially saying is they're kind of they're angels in a sense, that their mission is to do good within the world. So in that sense, they are angelic in terms of what their afterlife mission kind of is. So that's beautiful. But to sum it up, with this organization that they have running, they haunt someone, they change them into a better person, and then they sing about it, per the Ghost of Christmas Present. We find out that Ghost of Christmas Present has been eligible for retirement, as we've been talking about, for 46 seasons or years, meaning he could return to life, but has been opting not to do so. My question that I literally wrote down was, why didn't Denzel have this option in The Preacher's Wife? I feel like he would have thrived with this opportunity.
Was he human or was he just an angel?
He was an angel.
Yeah, well, he never was here before. So.
No. I'm sorry. He was a human being at one point in time and he died. prematurely. He died at the age that you see him when he comes into the movie, because that's what he says. He was alive and then he died, and he's been waiting in this long line
to become an angel.
get back to Earth to help somebody.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite holiday movies. I was like, Denzel would have thrived with this option.
Which is never readily available on Netflix or Hulu. Like, what is the deal?
Exactly. I feel like The Preacher's Wife would have been a much more interesting tale had Denzel had the option to earn his way rather, back into living. Because then Whitney's character would have really had some choices. That was the whole premise. She failed for him, but obviously he has to go back. He has to go back to heaven. So, and nobody remembered him thereafter. So Ghost of Christmas Present goes all in on wanting to haunt a fella named Clint Briggs, who's the owner of a media company and a big enthusiast of spreading misinformation and causing division. I'm going to start calling him just Present instead of Ghost of Christmas Present. It's easier. Present threatens to retire when his boss Jacob wants to go with someone else because Clint has been dubbed an unredeemable, meaning you cannot be moved. Right. It's on a file. They are very serious. But Present convinces him, because he obviously just didn't want to hear him sing anymore. And they spend an entire year, when they choose somebody, prepping to do this one night haunt. So we kind of see this flash of months going by in preparation for them to have this one big night. So by December, Clint's niece comes to him for help running for student council president. He gives some questionable advice, even puts his right hand and EVP Kimberly on opposition research for his niece's 8th grade opponent. Nothing about this plan gives Clint pause, but Kimberly was a different story. She was ready to quit. What do you think of Kimberly's moral dilemma with her job?
So that's a great question, considering the years that Kimberly has been working with Clint up until this point. But everyone has their floor. And the idea that you're looking into middle schoolers for dirt, does seem a bit low.
Yeah.
You gotta stand for something, right? Or you fall for anything.
Very true. I also think, to your point, it had built up, and we see her do this musical number where she kind of talks about, she's reached this peak of success. And she's reached this point of being in this corner office with all the things. And from the outside looking in, it looks like it's everything. But I think her soul is deteriorating. I think Gabrielle Union said something recently on like an episode of The View about these, like when these, I can't remember her exact verbiage, but it was something along the lines of like things like little pieces of your soul, you're taken away from it every time you're making decisions that don't align with you.
Yes.
And so I feel like that's what Kimberly is going through. Little pieces of her soul have been taken every time she's had to do something she didn't agree with. And Clint knows it. Clint knows she doesn't like it, because even when she comes back with information, he's like, you can tell she found something by how like upset she looks on her face or whatever. So she's been doing this for a while and has obviously not been enjoying her job, but I'm sure the financial security of it, the relationship probably she's built amongst her coworkers or whatever throughout the years, and just that comfort of, I have this secure job, what am I going to do if I leave, right. So It was unfortunate, but I'm sure a lot of people could relate to Kimberly and to that storyline. Guess who forms a love connection with Miss Kimberly? Ghost of Christmas Present, of course.
Who would have thunk it?
She somehow was able to see him, even though nobody else can. What do you think about the spark between these two characters?
I think it was sweet. I think I appreciate them. Love is a beautiful thing, and love comes in different iterations. And why not have Kimberly fall in love with a ghost? Why not? Everybody needs love.
I thought that they made it clearer why he was attracted to her more so than why she was necessarily attracted to him. Maybe it's just he popped up and he was kind and supportive because he gets to see so much more about her and her thought process. And he felt like they had similar jobs and so he could relate and he saw what a good person she was. Whereas he just pops up out the blue and I'm like, so Kimberly, what's going on? Like, Will Ferrell? Okay. All right. Whatever. Happy for y'all.
Why not?
Love
Why
is love.
not? Because
love
Kimberly character could have been played by literally anyone, but they chose the great Octavia. So I'm happy for her. Have we ever seen her fall in love in a movie?
That's a really good question. Nothing that I can think of. She's right now
being somebody's mammy or
the help.
You know what I mean? Like, let her fall in love with Will Ferrell.
She was in the one horror movie Maas, which I never watched. I never watched that one.
I saw that mess. It was a mess, literally.
But no, love is love. And it's a beautiful thing that they were able to connect on a level that obviously both of them felt strongly about. So Clint's haunting finally gets underway, and it's a bit of a shit show to say the least. Jacob's opening number is repeatedly interrupted. Ghost of Christmas Past has sex with Clint, and he ends up breaking out of the simulation on Ghost of Christmas Present as he attempts to fill in. How?
I think they made Clint such a clever devil. Literally. He was such a menace in this whole entire process. I
thought it was hilarious that they showed that Dolly Parton supposedly was one of the people that they did this with.
Not the woman who has a library that pays for vaccinations that
she seems to have such a heart of gold. Like, how y'all choose Dolly Parton of all people? When did y'all take her through this? When she was a teenager? Like, she's been living on the good foot as far as we know for a very long time.
But that was hilarious. Her hidden husband that she's been married to for 50 years.
Listen, when you happy, you in the background because you ain't got no reason to be out here in these streets and getting upset about anything. Go ahead, honey. Make that money, baby. Make that money. Yeah, it was crazy. The whole having sex with Clint thing, especially. I was like, what? How does this even work? She's not
How does it
alive.
even work? That is my question.
Is this like in his mind? Is he in a dream state? Like, how are we doing this? But okay.
We should ask Joy.
Joy who?
You don't remember Joy from The View? She joked about having a ghost lover.
No, I don't remember this episode.
Google it.
Oh my goodness.
My fave, Joy Behar, had the nerve to say that she had a ghost lover.
Hey.
It was a joke, but it's a running one now.
I have vivid dreams and that spirit hasn't filled me. So that sounded so dirty. Wow. All right, let's move on. So Present decides to give Clint a glimpse into his own past because Clint's been trying to do this whole angle throughout of trying to get to know him and ask him questions and all this. And he's like, listen, to keep this on track, let me give you some info. So he takes him back in the past and surprise, turns out Ghost of Christmas Present is the Ebenezer Scrooge, the only other unredeemable to ever go through the program. He says he had changed for at least the 3 weeks that he lived after this.
That was funny.
Did you see this plot twist coming?
It was a joyful plot twist. To me, it made sense that he was Ebenezer Scrooge based off of how adamant he he is with his job. He had the ability to retire 46 seasons ago, and he hadn't, because of his drive, his passion for the work. And that's because he himself has gone through the process. So I love this twist. I'm like, I was waiting for Ebenezer to show up. And so to find out that, Will Ferrell character is in fact the Scrooge, I was here for it.
Yeah, it was probably the most interesting thing about this film, in my opinion, that makes it unique to the iterations we've seen before. Because like Scrooge with Bill Murray is one of my favorite films of this genre. And so as I was watching this, I was like, how it seemed to be, and Bill Murray's problematic. Yes, I'm aware now. But
no, that's not why. It's just not my favorite version of the Christmas Story. So that's why I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, I loved it. First of all, Bill Murray is hilarious. And I say that more to everybody that I know who's like, oh, Bill Murray. Yes, I know. The Lucy Liu story and all that has been, it's tough now. But then when I've over the years and I've watched it, I love that version. I'm like, so how are we really going to shake this up from just you trying to help someone who, has such a bad spirit and all this? And, how are we going to really make it unique? And I thought this was very clever. And I also love this set. Like when we go back in time to the supposed 1800s, and it is my favorite musical number, Good Afternoon.
Yes. Absolutely. And as a very random point, one of my favorite Christmas Carol movies, 2000's A Diva's Christmas Carol, starring Vanessa Williams and Chile.
Okay. I was about to say, I think I remember that one. I thought you were about to say, for some reason, the one with Brandy and Diana Ross, but I don't think that was a holiday.
No, it wasn't.
Film.
That was called Platinum. Something Platinum.
Yeah, Double Platinum, maybe? Double Platinum?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Well, the fact that Good Afternoon means F you in the past, I'm like, I'm going to get a chuckle out of that for a long time.
Same.
Whenever someone says good afternoon to me or vice versa. Jacob ends up having to come through and set the haunt back on track. Because again, this is an unsanctioned, this is not the norm. We've deviated completely from their normal setup for Clint. He has thrown curveballs left and right. And this was yet another one that, Jacob has to kind of step in and handle. We see Clint through his present mistakes, including, as I mentioned, the bad advice to his niece. But the whopper for me was having to see the mistake he made of rejecting his sister's dying request to take his niece when she passed away. What did you think of Clint after seeing that moment?
I was terribly disappointed in him. He had the resources to be able to do it, but I mean, up until this point, he is the biggest scoundrel. You know what I mean? And so in some ways, it's not surprising that he didn't fulfill his end of, I don't want to call it the bargain or the promise, but it was really sad, very sad to see. And I was terribly disappointed in him. And I'm sure it ate at him as well. But again, because he was such a ruffian, I think, they stump on people's expectations and emotions daily, often.
All I could think was thank God for Owen. What would he have done if there wasn't a spare sibling to pick up that responsibility? You saw Owen was, you're my sister, whatever it is you need, just let me know. The polar opposite of Clint.
Yes.
And your sister is dying in a hospital, and she tells you her last request of you is for you to take your niece. I can't imagine being in that position. I can't imagine and refusing. Like, that would definitely eat away at me. One could say at least he has the thought of, but I'm not going to be the best for this job. at least he
Yeah,
has
it is
that.
a level of self-awareness
It
because
is.
he is an awful person.
He's very self-centered, very
Yes.
self-involved.
Manipulative.
But it's the why would your sister choose you and
Right.
request this of you if she didn't see more in you? And I think that's where the disappointment comes from, is clearly you were her choice and she's not going to be here, and she wanted you to be the one to raise her child. So it was heartbreaking. Clint figures out why Ebenezer Scrooge, or Ghost of Christmas Present, as I've been calling him, has held off retirement. It's because he fears he is still unredeemable. What'd you think about this revelation of his guilt for the life that he had lived after 2 centuries of serving humanity?
It makes sense. It makes sense. There are all types of people running away from their past, doing, in his case, good work, thankfully, but I think it was a deep revelation, but it wasn't surprising. And it's one of those things where it's like, you gotta forgive yourself after a while.
Yeah, how long will it take for you to feel like you've atoned? Because granted, the mistakes he made did cost people their lives,
their homes,
their families,
the Maslow
hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
He was not a nice person, but after 200 plus years, I'd say it's a job well done. I felt like he was being very hard on himself to not be able to chalk it up to, you've done the best job that you can, and you were human at the time and doing not the best you can, but you've done your best now, and that's what counts. All it took was the possibility of the love of a good woman, Delora, for him to move
Ain't
forward.
Ain't it always?
Impressive, impressive performance on this one too, with the light show that he did when the background dancers did, rather, when he did Unredeemable. I was like, oh, that's a showstopper. You know what I mean? Love. And again,
I love Will Ferrell so much because it's that joke. It's the slight joke of like him being so sincere but over exaggerated, but also really trying to hit these notes. Like, yeah, I feel it's like genius. I love it.
I feel like maybe the reason why Will Ferrell was, I don't even want to say better, why he seemed a little less stiff to me than Ryan Reynolds, is because even though Ryan Reynolds is funny, he's still handsome. And so I wonder if it's like Will Ferrell is so much more used to completely making a fool of himself than Ryan Reynolds, because Ryan Reynolds makes a fool of himself, but he's still good looking. Does that make sense?
Yes and no. When it comes to Ryan Reynolds, he's an asshole. He's a handsome asshole in 99% of the movies.
Yes, he is.
That we watch, and we love it. But when it comes to Will Ferrell, I think he has a level of endearment in what he does, or at least that's what he gets out of me. Like, he's endearing, and it's like you root for him, and he's ridiculous, and he's funny, and he's trying, and I'm still rooting for him. Like,
yeah, could be. I just feel like in terms of performers, I think there could be a level of vanity that one has that the other just does not. So it lets Will Ferrell just kind of be a little bit more free. He's been like
that in his entire career, and that's what we love about. That's why we love Elf so much.
You love Elf. I don't love Elf. My God. I've never loved Elf. I love Will Ferrell, but Elf is just not it for me. I'm sorry.
It's that same thing where it's like you are making a complete fool of yourself, but he goes for it. Even if he's ridiculous in doing it. And I find that endearing.
He's definitely endearing. So Clint ends up taking the retirement. He wakes up in Clint's bed for whatever reason. I so wish that in this moment they had hit us with the line, Did we just become best friends? Yep. I was waiting for it. Waiting for it. Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come shows up and shows Clint the outcome of his niece sending that video of her opponent out. This child committed suicide as a result due to the online bullying. Devastating. So Clint supposedly doesn't have a change of heart, but just feels like, oh, I need to go repair this one mistake, rushes to stop her. But Kimberly had already advised her against it. And Kimberly finally says, you know what? I quit. Enough is enough. I'm done with this. This was a step too far. To wrap the movie, Clint is finally changed when he jumps in front of a bus to save Ghost of Christmas Present, who is wanting to return to the afterlife, because the fact that Clint doesn't change makes him feel like, well, if he's unredeemable and he never changed, I'm never really changed either. So he's like, I got to go back. I've made a mistake. And but you see then that switch flip because they've become friends. They've bonded. That's his bro, as he likes to say.
Well, Clint has not cared for anything outside of himself in a very long time.
Not even his niece did he really want to give the time of day to when she originally came to the office to try to get his help. Too bad Clint dies. But instead of joining his sister in the light, he decides to take a gig recently vacated as the Ghost of Christmas Present. And somehow he convinces his sister to join him as well. Did you note that?
I did, but he's a master salesperson.
But you're not going to convince me to leave heaven and come back down here.
To push papers?
I've been in the light.
What are we doing?
I've been in the light. I've been by his side, and I'm gonna come back down here. I don't think so. And Present, aka Ebenezer Scrooge, starts the family he's always wanted with Kimberly. Is the moral of this story that unredeemable have to die to be truly redeemed?
Oh my gosh. I think it's all about self-sacrifice, caring about your fellow man, understanding
Heal the world.
The world is bigger than you and me.
I feel like you just said several lyrics to Heal the World.
The last part was Hamilton, but sure.
Okay. But you get what I'm saying, though. Clint died, and the Scrooge died, and that's when you supposedly, it's just kind of like, what are y'all trying to tell us? That people don't really change until they die? That would be a terrible story. But
awful.
To your point, I do think it was supposed to be about selflessness, right? And about, loving on others, taking care of other people, being accessible for other people, in ways that Clint throughout this story just wasn't being of service to everyone and to humanity. I feel like was a big moral of this story as well. And it was fun. It was some fun moments and some fun parts to see how they went about, again, this revision of this classic story that we've seen over the years in multiple iterations already. Do I think that Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds necessarily need to be in another musical? No. But hey, they've done this one, and the backup folks were fantastic. So
freaking-tastic.
It is what it is. So Delora, give me your final thoughts on this conclusion and just on this film in general.
My final thoughts on Spirited. The fact that Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell are in a Christmas musical is hilarious in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we go into this story, and I appreciated the twists and the turns. Again, Ryan Reynolds was not nearly as bad as Ryan Gosling in La La Land. When it comes to overall performance, I will put that out there.
Hey, but Gosling learned a musical instrument, so I'm just saying.
He did. It was fun. It was fun. Again, the chorus did the damn thing.
Yeah, they did.
I applaud them. Again, shout out again to Chloe Arnold. Taps. I love seeing her and her floppy fro tap. It just brings me so much joy because I actually follow her on Instagram before I knew she was a part of this project. So, and then I love seeing Octavia do something different in her career. She deserves. Why not be Will Ferrell's love interest?
She lived a softer life in this than we've gotten to see her in many other features. Softer life.
I'm here for it. It was a lot of fun, Ashley. What about yours? What's your final thoughts?
'Tis the season, man. I can't say that this is gonna go down as my favorite Christmas film that's released in 2022. But you had these heavy hitters. You had some good times. You had a variation of a story that I usually really enjoy. And it brought some of that spirit that I need and I look forward to during this time of the year for sure. And it never hurts to look at Ryan Reynolds. That's just be honest about that part.
And let's keep it 1,000. He is the same character in most movies, but I never seem to tire of it. Why is that?
Because he is a good-looking person, and that's probably why.
Oh, I also appreciated the call out of them being in Vancouver because he's Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
I love little details like that in the movie.
All right, guys. Well, that is it for our recap of Spirited. Again, hope you guys enjoy. If you have any thoughts or feedback, let us know. Hope you're watching some great holiday, either faves or classics or new releases, and are just really getting in the spirit for this week as we gear up for Christmas time. All right, Delora, what you got for hidden gems for the people?
This is our final podcast of the year, and I'm going to give you all a few of my favorite things. So the first one is a movie that just came out. It is A Christmas Carol. It's called Scrooge, A Christmas Carol. It's an animated movie available on Netflix. It's rated G, so it's family friendly. It's an hour and 36 minutes long. It's good. Is it the best one ever? No, but there are some musical selections in this one that I am just like, wow, they really went there vocally, and I appreciate the effort. Luke Evans plays Ebenezer Scrooge. We love and know him as Gaston in the live action Beauty and the Beast movie. He also plays Dracula. Very handsome man, but didn't know old dude had pipes. And
he was in 9 Perfect Strangers too, right?
He was. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. And the wonderful Olivia Colman is also in this movie. We watched it last week because it became available, and I thought it was befitting to give another version a shout out. These next 2 items on my hidden gem list are things that I have held near and dear to my heart for a good portion of the year that I like to share with you all. I have hinted to this book series in, I believe, our recap of The School for Good and Evil. It's called A Court of Thorns and Roses. I read this series this year, and I have been blown away. These books are ridiculously long, but it is back in my fantasy bag. It follows a young huntress named Farah. She lives in the human realm, and the other realm are full of fairies. And one thing that I love about fairy lore, when it comes to humans, they're full of riddles and deceptions and don't eat their foods and all that. And of course, there's a love story, there's a survival story. So it's kind of like Katniss Everdeen with a little bit of what's another one that I think would be a good representation of describing what's going on. It's like if Katniss Everdeen ended up in a land full of fairies, essentially. And there's all types of twists and turns. And what I love about this series is it's well written and everything matters. Like there are what you think are throwaway lines in the first book that mean so much by the time you get to the the second book and third and fourth and so on. My favorite book in the series is the second book. I'll love it. I 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 love it because that's where most of the twists and turns happen in this big saga of a story. And I'm not going to say anymore, but there are multiple love interests, and the one that she goes for is literary bae. That's all I got to say to that. All right. My final hidden gem is a gospel album. It is called Encountered by Todd Galbreth. One thing I love growing up, grew up in the church. My church was known for their praise and worship. And whenever I am able to hear really good praise and worship music, it just means so much to me. And I share with my family, my mother and my sister. I got them all on this bandwagon because this album is full of bangers. There are 18 songs and everything from Joy is Coming, featuring Travis Green, Come In, He Won't Fail. And the one that I adore is called Fear Is Not My Future. This is an iteration of a very famous Maverick City song. But this one, this version, banger. And it's featuring the Tasha Cobb Leonard. Okay. If you love live gospel music, this album is for you. It's anointed. It's so good. So highly, highly recommend. My final hidden gems of the year, Ashley. What about yours?
All right. Thank you so much. I have 3 as well. My first one is Braxton Family Christmas album. This dropped back in 2015 and it still goes strong for me on my Christmas playlist. If y'all have not listened to this album, I believe it's 8 tracks, but it's particularly their version of Last Christmas that, sometimes I listen to that throughout the year just because it just makes me feel some type of way. The harmonies of the sisters, Tony out here doing vocally what Tony D. Braxton does. I just love it. I don't feel like it gets enough love out here when I see memorable Christmas albums and Christmas music being promoted. So I just wanted to give it a plug. And rest in peace, Tracy Braxton. So that's the Braxton Family Christmas album. My second hidden gem, The White Lotus season 2. Woo! I had been holding out on this as a hidden gem because I really had to see how this season was going to wrap. The first season was cool, but I didn't love it. But this second season, set in Italy, so good. So good to me. Appointment television for me every single week. I was waiting
to binge it, so it's worth the binge.
It's really good.
And I need to watch the first season.
You might want to watch the first season because there are 2 characters that are pulled into the second season. And so if you at least are with them a little bit in the first season, you'll see a little bit more of their dynamic and the one particular one who's Jennifer Coolidge's character, her personality. Mm-hmm. So that would be helpful, but otherwise they're pretty separate stories. Mm-hmm. But the twists and turns this season, fun. I did not guess what was the big finale. And it was good. I don't want to give too much because there's a lot to unpack with the White Lotus and I want people to just get into it and just enjoy it. But season 2 for me was a step up from season 1. I'll say that. Season 1 was awarded, they've won many awards. So
yes, they did.
My final hidden gem is Riches. This is a series that's currently on Amazon Prime. It is a Black British drama focused on the successful Richards family whose patriarch dies suddenly, leaving the family company up for grabs, and the return of his estranged daughter and son. I binged this over the weekend. I wasn't sure about it at first because I don't usually watch a lot of Amazon Prime original series. I don't know if this is necessarily original, but just some of Amazon can be hit and miss, I guess is the point I'm trying to make.
Yes.
But I got into this one, and I love seeing a predominantly Black cast, obviously, but the dynamics within this family, the dynamics within business, the dynamics within exes and wives and siblings and all this, it was an interesting journey. I'll say that over the course of this first season, which was 6 episodes. I don't believe it's been announced whether it's renewed for a season 2, but I definitely feel like the first season is worth checking out. So that is Riches on Amazon Prime. And those are our final hidden gems of the year, guys. It has been a pleasure. Hope you enjoy your Christmas. Hope you enjoy your New Year's. We will be back in January with some fresh episodes.
Hanukkah and Kwanzaa.
There you go. Take care of yourselves, guys. Enjoy the holiday season. Rest up. Spend time with your loved ones. Take care of yourself. Do all the things. We are wishing you the very best, and we cannot wait to talk to you in the new year.
Absolutely. We love you all. We thank you all for your support, for showing up week after week. We really enjoy having our conversations and sharing them with you. And Ashley, happy early birthday.
Thank you so much. Y'all know I'm over here sipping as we speak.
I'm going to miss you, but I hope you enjoy your birthday.
Thank
and
you.
See you in the new year.
All right, guys, be blessed.
Bye.